some delegates from the Korean province. First, let's take turns introducing ourselves. I am Hildegard Jang, Korean provincial. I am Teresa Kim. I am currently helping to train Korean religious. My name is Helena Gang. I am on a mission to help immigrants and live in the insertion community. I am Maria Bach. I am currently studying biblical theology in the STL course. I am Serafina Kim. I am currently studying ecological spiritual theology. In the second round, we are going to introduce the three most alive issues in the Korean province and the world, respectively. A paradigm shift at the religious level. It is necessary to establish a paradigm shift at the religious level and to establish a direction for vocation. What will we do? Rather than creating something new, it is time to think about how to give and share what we have now. First, reflection and transformation on the existing paradigm of apostolate, seeking a change in the method of apostolate, the transition to living together, a way of finding a way together. Second, it identifies the priorities of the atmosphere and attempts to change the way of the apostolate online. Third, visit the poor, live together, various forms of society, changes in the form of apostolic communities, conformity of life and apostolate, self-reliant communities, small communities with flexibility and openness, transformation of life consciousness. Fourth, rather than to do, we need the courage to practice the virtuous cycle of giving out our space, time, and talents in various dimensions. Not just materials, by giving and sharing from the perspective of to give, to share. Ecological transformation. Transformation. Nowadays, this is the most talked about term due to the COVID-19 pandemic and climate crisis. In order to respond to the current urgent cry of the Earth, Congregation of Jesus of Korea are called to live on ecological transition inner activities, not only at the individual level, but also at the whole order level. A shift in consciousness. The ecological transformation must ultimately be the restoration of the broken relationship, that is, the relationship with the world, others, oneself, and ultimately with God. Our new step. In the time of ecological transformation in the Korean province, each of us has become a subject. The community took the first step to make change. The core of it is each of us becomes the subject and to create a 7-year journey together. This photo was taken at the end of May. A Zoom meeting was held for the Lautato C 7-year journey of the JPIC Sisters of the Korean province. Solidarity in action. Ultimately, a change of consciousness is meant to lead to action. Solidarity with the society and the world is needed, not just at the religious level. In Korea, 2017, all environmental groups gathered in one place and held a meeting. The Korea Climate Strike and the Catholic Climate Action have started to take action and are making efforts for political, social, and institutional change. Youth and young adult. The reality of the young man. All over the world, especially in Korean society, young people at the most important time of their lives are most exposed to COVID-19 shocks. Many young people have lost their hope of finding a job and starting a family as they are driven to triple shock of job shortages, living difficulties, and social isolation. The younger generation of COVID-19 is expected to suffer greatly over the next 5 years due to job losses and shrinking recruitment. It's not just Korea. The International Labour Organization named the youth generation lockdown generation during the COVID-19 period. Youth reality. The post-COVID-19 era is in danger of returning the values of education and religious virtues to economic value, both inside and outside the system, including on tech and non-face-to-face classes to economic value. If we failed to resolve the difficulties faced by teenagers and young people quickly, there is a risk that not only the time, but also the entire life will be in danger of being in an unstable life. The role we require. It should be remembered that the difficulties that teenagers and young people are experiencing now are social problems, not individuals' fault. The opportunity to practice special consideration for youth, the subject of the Congregation of Jesus' unique vow, and the need for specific personality and value education that can be met in various professional ministries other than educational ministries. Discrimination, hatred, and peace. I believe that the root of all discrimination and hatred comes from a lack of respect and other factors. There have been ethnic and religious reasons deeply rooted in the discrimination against women, migrants, and refugees, against the sexual minorities, and because of the origin of the coronavirus in China, Asian hatred has been centered on the United States and Europe. Deep-rooted discrimination against women exists in the male-centered world, and it is a secret domestic violence in which many women suffer from the risk of sexual violence and discrimination in status and wages in society is also serious. This kind of discrimination and hatred is clearly un-evangelical, so it is something we should be wary of and pay attention to. He said that if a society is to function properly, it can be known by looking at how the weak among the members of society are treated. It is recognized as our new mission in this age to stand in solidarity with the perspective that the weak link can only be revived and become an advocate for the marginalized and excluded. As a Korean, I would like to talk about peace on the Korean Peninsula. South Korea and North Korea, the only divided countries, always have a desire for peace and an end to the war under the interest of great powers. North Korea is economically and politically difficult and isolated, So Pope Francis has expressed his intention to visit North Korea and is keenly interested in peace and evangelization in China and other Northeast Asia. Peace is the ultimate goal of the human community, but it does not happen by itself. And I believe that everyone's interest and great and small effort can be kept together. Economic polarization. The second issue presented is how the world sees that economic polarization is deepening due to the global pandemic. To understand the K-shaped polarization seen on the screen, you need to know the term K-shaped recovery. This means that high-educated, high-income workers recover quickly from economic downturns or become richer. On the other hand, it refers to a polarization phenomenon in which low-educated, low-income workers either cannot recover from a recession or their incomes decrease. The most worrying thing about the pandemic is the gap between the rich and poor. It is getting worse in developing countries as it is uncertain whether the world will be on the road to economic recovery since the gap in vaccine supply is widening. It is important to know that poverty in poor countries is no longer the only problem. The reason the disease is continuously spreading is due to the lack of health care, which is a form of inequality of wealth in all countries. Due to the disparity between countries, Gerald Diamond described three pressing world problems. Examples include the global spread of infectious disease, rampant terrorism, and rampant immigration. Untapped communication, limitations of communication, and expansion of communication. Non-face-to-face online communication is expanding in all fields, including religion. The spread of a social atmosphere that avoids face-to-face interaction because of the spread of an uncertain environment. At the beginning of the outbreak of the COVID-19, both Korea and churches around the world responded quickly with online communication based on excellent IT infrastructure. However, due to the congestion of users, there were problems such as system shutdown, limitations of online communication, and digital device support and acquisition problems for the underprivileged. This issue, which is an issue of the world, is also an important issue for the Congregation of Jesus as an active and international religious order. Building on online culture is both a crisis and an opportunity. Current crisis, direct contact and communication disconnection, shrinking apostolic and community life, fear of change and lack of response to change, gap between rich and poor due to non-face-to-face communication capabilities. Taking this crisis as an opportunity, establishing an online culture, strengthening spirituality for evangelical propagation, and globalization online within domestic and international congregations. Demand for a paradigm shift in existing communication methods, a change in the way of spiritual care, a change in precedents and cultural life in Catholic. That was 6 burning issues that we saw in the Korean province. Thank you.